Ready?
Sure.
Juwan next to the Don.
Send my STEEZ note going on your law.
Then bring y'all post-game review. This time we got Hawthorn versus Melbourne.
At the location. At the MCG.
So, coming into this one, I thought it was going to be an ass whoop, bro. Melbourne is definitely has been a contender the last few years. Hawthorn, not so much. And they're already missing some of their key pieces. So,
Yeah.
I wasn't really expecting much from them, but I also didn't get much from them. So, I will say my predictions were kind of correct on this one.
Yeah, for me coming in, I've always been wanting to play with the Hawks. I wanted them to be, I wanted them to be good and fill out the potential. And I was disappointed in their performance last week against Essendon. And obviously, this is a larger scale that they would have to, a larger magnitude of a team that they have to beat in Melbourne. And so I was more so on the same train as you was, thinking Melbourne was going to dominate this game, and we see what happened.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was an ass whoop. It's really not too much to talk about. Hawthorn just was outplayed. They was playing a different brand of footy than I'm familiar seeing from them. It was a real slow down game. They was doing a lot of just switching on the back line, racking up fantasy points for the defenders. But like I said during the game, I just didn't think it was going to work on Melbourne. Melbourne, especially a slowed down game with Melbourne. I think that's when they're at their best, is when the game is kind of slowed down and they can see everything going on and kind of their IQ is just better, I think. And the way the Hawks play just kind of, I think, favored what brings the best out of Melbourne.
For me, at the beginning of the game, it was that unfamiliar style of play where they just looked confused, trying to switch, like you were saying, really trying to get Melbourne to shift the defense, and it definitely wasn't working. They were just completely getting outplayed. It was like 33 to, I can't remember what Hawks scored, but they weren't doing enough at all to even get there. They wouldn't even have the proper lead, the first lead, and then so just the progression throughout that quarter was just, all right, we get this one kick, now what do we do now? Because there was like no representation at all. Melbourne had them all figured out. I do think the second quarter was more of a Hawk style of play that we've seen before. And I don't think, obviously it wasn't nowhere to go but up from the first quarter. But they were able to stem the bleeding a little bit from what Melbourne was doing the first quarter, just completely just whooping their ass. So I don't think Melbourne scored too much the second quarter. And the Hawks, and I think Josh Weddle was one of the bigger players, helping them be able to in the transition and attack. But Melbourne, I think this game just as a whole just was whooping their ass, really, particularly in the clearance, bro. They were just the Hawks, and the center bounce last year. I think the Hawks were decent, and particularly John Newcomb, I think, and Will Day. And John Newcomb might as well not even be there because he just is not the player that he was last year. He's not as effective in the mids, and I understand that Melbourne is a great center bounce team with the midfield that they have and the ruck that they have. But last year I would think that they would be a little bit more competitive and they would proceed forward a little bit, and it just wasn't the case, bro.
Yeah, Melbourne's midfield is just what dominates, bro.
Sure.
I mean, there's no need to list all of them every time, but they did have some new people in the midfield that are not new people, but like Van Rooyen, he did a lot of work in the midfield. I like what I've seen from him, man. Got some goals. Caleb Windsor, got you on my fantasy. He was on the wing. I don't know if you're going to make the cut, bro. You might be a bench player since you're mid forward and everything, but I don't know. I keep reverting back to fantasy, bro. This shit really got me fucked up this game because Viney did not do what he was supposed to do. And that's the thing, bro. Melbourne's midfield is like so good. You never know which midfield's going to turn up, but they all definitely have the potential to just have a great game every night. I think we call Petrarca the best because he usually does it most consistently, but almost every player in Melbourne's midfield is just capable of just breaking out at any time, and I think that is definitely what's scary about them. Then in the forward end, fucking Bailey Fritsch just going crazy. This nigga had a spectacular mark, if you don't mind.
Piggy had his moments for sure.
Yeah, Piggy had got off early. Even what's his name? Damn, it's not Caleb. Squareface.
Oh, Chandler.
Chandler was getting in there too.
Chandler had good moments in the game too.
But yeah, their forwards doing good. And then speaking of positioning, their backfield did get pretty injured this game, if you don't mind. Stephen May looks like he's out with some rib issues. Mario Cho had just landed on him. Well, really got a knee right into the rib. Then Jake Lever, he just some knee issues. Really didn't explain what it was.
It was a spoiled attempt, and he landed no contact. It was some weird knee issue.
So surely we'll get some more info on that, but it don't even matter. It was just really an ass with Melbourne's work.
Yeah, I do think it was worth noting that Melbourne didn't have as much. I've been harping on Melbourne because of their goal kicking issues and the accuracy, and I think it's worth noting that they didn't seem to have those issues this game. They were way better as far as accuracy in front of goal. Ben Brown got in there a little bit too, but also worth noting, just Hawthorn needs to work on some system issues, some structural issues, because with all that being said, with the struggling that they had scoring, it was without those two key backs. And without those two out, you would definitely, any team would love, I wouldn't say love to see them go out, but any team would love to see a Melbourne team without those two players out there defensively. Sure. Especially if and the Hawks do have some talent up front, so it was just definitely on the midfield to be able to deliver that, and it just wasn't happening. I also want to highlight Cam McKenzie. Through all the bullshit that the Hawks were having, Cam McKenzie looked pretty good, young player as well. So, all in all, Hawks, it was just a domination on Melbourne's end, as we all expected. And, that's pretty much all I got, to be honest.
Well, I like Ginnivan, too. Ginnivan was looking good for the Hawks out there in the yellow and brown.
They had individual play, but the team, it looked like a new team. It looked like a very young team or a team that just got together, bro, and haven't been practicing much. So they got to work on that.
Yeah, it was like they came out the game at first and was trying to listen to whatever coach game plan was, and then they just weren't going nowhere with that. Like they didn't know how the system worked right or some shit. Mm-hmm. And then later on it was just like go play footy, and then that's when they kind of got some goals. Very few, but it definitely was a lot more chaotic when they were scoring.
Nick Watson, first goal in AFL footy after 6 behinds, the young bloke. Second game, so shout out to bro. Third game.
Okay, but that's about it, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube shit. We live right now, matter of fact, but probably not when you see this. Unless you see this right before we go live again.
Yes, live.
Never know. We be live, so tune in for that.
Tune in. Hey. Sydney Essendon.
Yeah. Got it.